All right, please be seated. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Sorry to get started a little bit late. I had to talk to the attorneys about one of the legal matters before we got started, but I think we're ready to go. Mr. Braun, you may call your next witness.
Steve, we call Tabitha Laura off your.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give me and the jury will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated and keep your voice up.
Good morning. Tell everybody who you are.
My name is Tabitha Laura.
Tabitha, where do you work?
I work at Lummy's in Huron, Ohio, and I work at Subway on Put-in Bay.
I'm sorry, could you speak up and start over?
I work at Lummy's in Huron, and I work at Subway on Put-in Bay.
Okay, what is Lummy's?
It's a restaurant.
What kind of food?
We sell perch, breakfast.
Okay. How many hours a week do you work there?
I work there 5 days a week.
And what about Subway on Put-in Bay?
5 days a week.
Okay. Do you have a relationship with Clay Stein?
He's my boyfriend.
Okay. Do you live with him?
Yes.
How long have you lived with him?
12 years.
Do you know Clay's mother?
Yes.
How long have you known Helen Stein?
About the same.
All right. What about Roger Peen?
Probably 3-4 years.
And what about David Heinzel?
About 12.
Okay. Where do you live?
On Lightner Road?
Next to 653 Lightner?
Yes.
I want to go back to April of last year. How did you find out Helen Stein had put her house up for sale?
Clay told me, and then I seen the for sale sign right in front of the house.
And when you saw the sign, what happened then?
I contacted the realtor and asked her questions about it.
Did you know the realtor?
Yes, I did.
What was the realtor's name?
Janine Porter.
How did you know Janine Porter?
She used to come into Lummy's. She was one of my customers.
Okay. Do you have a social relationship with her?
No,
Professional relationship?
just work.
Okay. You never went out with her or were a friend or anything like that?
No.
But you called her.
Yes.
What did you tell her?
I asked her what was going on with the house. That it was for sale, that nobody really knew anything about it. That Helen didn't ask her brother if he wanted to buy it before she went to go sell it.
Okay. Did you end up talking to David Heinzel about this?
Yes, we all did.
And by say all, who are we talking about?
Well, me and Clay and his sister and
And the sister's name is?
Crystal Chapman.
Okay. So the three of you talked to Uncle David Heinzel.
Right.
Was he interested in purchasing the house?
Yes. We wanted to keep it all in the family.
At that point, did you share that with Janine Porter?
Yes.
Now, did you ever meet with Janine Porter to discuss this, or was this just phone conversations?
Just phone.
Miss Laura, did you ever find out something unusual had happened at Helen Stein's house on April 4th?
That's when the pictures got taken.
And when we talking about pictures, what pictures are we talking about?
Steve Kraus being in the house taking items.
Okay. Did you see those pictures?
Yes.
How did you see them?
They got sent to my cell phone. I was at work at Lummy's.
Do you know who sent them to you?
Clay.
At that point, when you got those photographs, did you react in any way to them?
I was pretty pissed, yeah.
What did you do?
I called Janine. I already knew that he was going over there that day to take pictures of the car. He was not supposed to be in the house, just in the garage.
Okay. You called Janine?
Yes.
Did you call anybody else?
No.
Later, did you call somebody else?
Well, yeah, I called Clay and told him that he was not allowed to be in the house at that time.
Okay. Later on, did you make a phone call to Mr. Berquist?
Yes.
I'm sorry, to Mr.
Berquist. How did you know Mr. Berquist?
I used to work there. I worked for Prudential Stadmiller when I graduated high school. So that was back in 2001.
What was your job there?
I was a secretary.
Okay. How long did you work there?
5 years maybe.
Got to
So
know
I got to
Mr.
know Jeff Berquist really well.
Okay. Do you have his number?
Yes.
What'd you tell Mr. Berquist?
I sent him pictures of the thing and he said my employees would not do that. And then the next day he gave Steve Kraus my number to call me, which I didn't like that idea as well either. And then me and Steve Kraus met the next day and returned some of the items that he didn't return the day before.
Okay. First of all, what did Steve Kraus say to you on the phone?
That he was Steve Kraus, that he had some of the items that he wanted to return them, and I told him he should better return them to me and not to Clay, because Clay was kind of mad. So we met the next day and we returned them
Okay. Where did you meet at?
at Lightner Road
Which house on Lightning Road?
on Helens,
And where were you at when he pulled in?
in the driveway,
What kind of vehicle was he driving?
the van. Same one in the pictures.
Did you have your car with you at the time?
And the Equinox.
What happened when Mr. Kraus got out of the van and walked up to you?
He said, "This is the box I have. I took it to look at it in better light," which that was a lie. It was a sunny day. He could have looked at all the items right there. Why did he take some of the stuff that was in the box? He apologized left and right, said what he did was wrong. He was a Christian. He wouldn't do that. And then we went on our way.
Okay. Did he ever give you anything?
He did give me his business card. He wanted to contact Helen Steins, and I said, "That's not a good thing to do right now. You just took some of her belongings, and then you want to contact her to auction some of her stuff off." So I never gave him any number. I took the card, and that was it.
But he wanted her number.
Right.
You pretty upset with him?
Oh, yeah.
What happened to the box of stuff that he returned to you?
It's on the next door at Clay's house in the breezeway.
Okay. How long has it been there?
Since last year.
Okay. No one's touched it, really?
No.
Now, the person who returned this property to you, is he present here in court?
Yes, he is.
Wait a minute, describe where he's seated for the record, please.
He's right there.
Can you describe what he's wearing?
He talks.
Okay. And what does he look like between the two men there?
He's got white hair.
Okay. Would the record reflect she's identified in defense?
It may so reflect.
Thank you. At this point, did you ever call the police yourself, Tab?
No, because I didn't really want to get involved. We already had told Helen, and then Helen was the one that pursued it.
Okay. Ultimately, did you end up talking to Detective Eastley
Yes, I did.
several times?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further?
Give me Kraus.
Good.
Good morning, Ms. Laura. How are you today?
Good morning.
Ms. Laura, to begin, I just want to confirm and give you an opportunity. Do you believe there's any portion of your testimony this morning wherein, upon further reflection, you believe you may have erroneously misstated something or maybe not stated it as clearly as you needed? And in all fairness to you, you'd now like an opportunity to correct or clarify any previous statement this morning?
Nope.
Ma'am, you indicate that you were upset when you came to find out that Mr. Kraus had, according to some folks, taken some things from the property, correct?
Yeah,
Were you more upset than Clay Steins?
probably not.
And what is your exact address on South Lightner Road?
753,
Okay. And that is to the left or the right of the house in question?
if you're looking at the house, it's to the right.
Okay. And it's the first house to the right, correct? There's no houses between.
No.
You indicate that everyone went and talked to David Heinzel about the sale of the house, correct? Why did
Sorry,
everyone?
yes or no?
Yes,
Sorry. Why did everyone go and talk to David?
they all wanted to keep it in the family. So it was Clay and his sister, me, David.
Okay. And what were those conversations?
We were trying to get the house back.
Okay, and how was it determined how you were going to get the house back?
We were gonna do what we can to get the house.
Okay. Was Helen part of these conversations?
No,
Okay. Have you ever been in the house?
once.
Once, and when was that?
It was last year,
When last year?
back in April.
So around the time of the sale?
Yes,
Was it prior to or after the sale?
it was before the sale.
It was before the sale. And why were you in the house prior to the sale?
His sister was over there getting something out of there.
Whose sister?
Clay's sister, Crystal.
Okay. Now you say this was in April?
Yes,
Do you remember what day in April?
no,
Was it before you saw the for sale sign put in the yard?
yes,
The house was listed for sale and the for sale sign put in the yard on April 2nd, correct?
right.
So if you were there in April, you were there the day before, correct?
Okay, it was around that time, end of March, beginning of April.
Okay. How long before you saw the for sale sign were you in the house?
Maybe a week.
A week. And what was Crystal getting out of the house?
Something that was hers.
Did you see the item?
No, I didn't.
Was it a big item or a small item?
Just something small.
So Crystal was in the house taking an item out that you didn't see.
Right.
And Crystal only took one item out of the house?
Yep.
How long were you at the house?
Like 5 minutes, not even long enough.
Did you ever do any cleaning in the home?
No,
You didn't clear a path?
nope,
Did you ever clean outside the home?
no.
You never straightened up or cleaned off the front porch?
Oh, yes, I did do that. That
Okay.
was back the year before, 2013.
2013? And why were you cleaning the front porch in 2013?
Because me and Clay wanted to clean it off.
You indicate you were in the house roughly a week before it went for sale. When you walked into the house, what type of condition was the house in?
It was kind of a mess.
Kind of a mess. Stuff all over the place?
Yes or no?
Yes,
When you went into the house, what room did you go to?
I just kind of looked around all over.
Okay, so you went through the entire house.
Not the entire, no.
Okay.
But downstairs,
So did you go through all the rooms downstairs?
no.
Okay, what rooms did you go through downstairs?
By the kitchen, living room,
And necessarily to get to the living room, you then would have had to go through the dining room, correct?
yeah, kind of. It's all kind of one big room.
Okay. And when you looked in the kitchen, you saw old food all over, correct?
Yes,
And you saw things thrown about in all three rooms, correct?
Yes or no?
yes.
Do you have any knowledge how long it had been since anyone lived in that property?
Probably 3 years.
3 years? Who last lived there?
Helen?
Okay. Would it surprise you if I told you that Helen said she hadn't lived there since 2006?
Well, it could have been that long. She did live in Florida for a while. I
So
mean,
it could have been 3 years, it could have been 10 years, you don't really know.
she's been out for a while.
Okay. How well do you know Helen?
She's Clay's mother. I don't talk to her a whole lot around the holidays.
How often do you see her?
Not very often. I work 2 jobs.
Do you ever go to her current property in Fort Clinton?
No.
Does she come to Clay's house? Is that where you see her?
Or around the holidays at his sister's house
Okay.
when we get together.
You indicate that when Mr. Kraus met with you, that he returned a box of items, correct?
Yes.
Do you know what was in that box?
There was a lamp, there was mirror, there was some photo albums, or one photo album. I didn't really look in the whole box.
Okay. Had you
Just a
ever,
bunch of old stuff.
had you ever seen any of that stuff before? When Mr. Kraus brought it back, it was in a white box, correct?
No, it was in a brown box.
It was in a brown box. Would it surprise you that on April 7th of 2014, Helen Steins told Officer Meisler that the items were returned in a white, get this clear, white colored cardboard box?
Not that I recall, no, it's in a brown box. It's still at the house to this day.
Okay. So you would say that if Ms. Stein says it was in a white box, that's incorrect?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus took that box and he put it in your vehicle, correct?
No, he handed it to me
Okay, and where did you put it?
in my vehicle.
Okay, and what did you do with it?
I put it in our house in the breezeway, which is where it's at today.
Okay. Was that box ever left, after it was given to you, was it ever left at the property at 653 South Lightner Road?
No, so it was next door.
So if Miss Steins, Helen Steins, told the officer that when some of the items were returned to the house, the same items were left outside of the home, that would be incorrect?
There was no items left outside.
Okay.
They
So
were
that
all
would be,
returned into the house.
so that would be incorrect.
Yes.
One moment, ma'am. Sorry, you're on one moment. Ma'am, you indicated in your testimony that that Mr. Kraus told you, this is the box I had and I took the box to get a look in a better light, correct?
Yes,
And you indicated there was no need for that because it was a sunny day, correct?
correct.
Here, may I approve? And I'd like to show you a number of photographs. Give you an opportunity to look at those and let me know when you've had an opportunity to review them, please.
Okay.
Do you know who took those photos?
Roger Peen,
Okay.
neighbor across the street.
Okay, and are those the photos that were forwarded to your boyfriend?
Yep, and then to me.
Okay, ma'am, you would agree with me that the road is wet in that picture, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me that the sky is gray, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it's not a sunny day, correct? May I approach you? Yes.
I'm sorry, did you answer?
Yes.
In fact, it was rather dreary that day, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
Yes.
You indicate that Jeff, you had contacted Jeff Bergquist when you found out these items were missing, correct?
Yes.
And you had worked with him before, correct? When did you work with him?
Back in 2001.
Okay. And in the time that you had worked for him, were you able to discern how he ran his business?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and he ran it reputably.
Yep.
Okay. And in fact, he even told you that's not how we do business at my agency, correct?
Yes.
Now, you indicate you spoke with Officer Meisler, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't speak to Officer Meisler until April 30th of 2014 for the first time, correct?
Yes.
So 26 days after this incident allegedly occurred, correct?
Yes.
Why didn't you go to the police before and tell them what you knew?
Because it wasn't my stuff. We told his mom. His mom's the one that pressed the charges.
But you were the only one that had direct contact with Steve Kraus, correct?
Right.
You're the only one who alleges he told you what I did was wrong, correct?
Yes.
You didn't think that was important?
I guess not at that time.
And in fact, the house had actually changed hands to David Heinzel before you even talked to the police, correct?
Yes.
Who took the pictures again?
Roger Peen.
When you met with the officer on April 7th of 2014, you basically told him that you told Officer Meisler that Clay Steins did not want to get involved, correct?
Yes.
Why did he not want to get involved?
None of us wanted to get involved.
Why not?
Well, why would we?
Ma'am, I'm asking you a question, why not?
I didn't want no part of it. Even though he returned the box to me, I didn't want no part of this.
Why not?
Because I didn't.
No reason, you just didn't.
No, I didn't want to.
So you didn't want to be involved, Clay Steins didn't want to be involved. Who else didn't want to be involved?
The only one that wanted to press the charges was Helen.
If you didn't want to be involved, why were you the one to call Officer Meisler on April 30th?
I was probably returning a phone call that he called me.
You basically, during that interaction, indicated that neither you or Clay Steins had witnessed the incident, correct?
Right, I was at work.
You indicated that you identified Mr. Kraus from your personal meeting, correct?
Yes,
In fact, he gave you his business card when he was there interacting with you, correct?
yes,
So you knew his name.
yes.
Did you tell everyone else his name?
Oh, yeah.
Who did you tell?
Probably Clay.
Okay. And when did you tell Clay? Immediately?
Probably, yeah.
You indicated that the house had already been sold to Miss Stein's brother, correct?
Yes,
And you indicated that while you didn't take the photos, Mr. Stein's brother actually took them and forwarded each photograph to you, correct?
yes,
And that's actually not correct. They were actually forwarded to Clay, and Clay forwarded them to you,
Right.
correct? Okay. And that's it. That's all that happened in that interaction, correct?
yes, because I
Were
was
you-
at work.
Okay. Were you asked to come in and give a written statement at that time?
I'm not sure when the time was that I got a written statement. I don't really remember that.
Okay. Do
This
you-
is all over a year ago, so you're asking me questions that I'm supposed to remember like it happened yesterday.
All of this happened a year ago. Your written.
April 2014.
Your written
No,
I'm sorry, you can just take one at a time.
Sure.
All of this happened a year ago, and your answer was?
April or 2014, this all happened.
Okay. So your written statement, everything was
My written statement was this year,
this year.
yes.
So it hasn't all been a year ago.
It was a year in April that all this happened, yes.
Correct, but your written statement, not everything to do with your part interacting with Officer Meisler has been a year ago, correct?
Right, no, because it happened this year where I wrote out my written statement.
And you don't remember on April 30th of 2014 whether or not he asked you to complete a written statement at that time?
No, I never did it at that time.
Okay. Was the first time you were asked to complete a written statement over 1 year later?
Probably, yes.
In fact, after April 30th of 2014, you were not again contacted by Officer Meisler until April 7th, 2015, correct?
That's probably right, yes.
And when you were contacted on April 7th, 2015, well, let me go backwards. On April 30th, 2014, did you tell Officer Meisler that the box of items was in Clay Stein's house?
Yes,
Did Officer Meisler ask to see that box of items at that time?
no,
In fact, the first time Officer Meisler saw that box of items was over a year after the incident occurred on April 7th, 2015. Is that correct?
yes.
Are you always present at Clay Stein's home?
No,
So you can't really tell me whether or not somebody touched that box when you weren't there or not, can you?
it's locked, so no, nobody touched the box.
It's locked where?
Our house is locked.
Your house is locked. Why do you lock your house?
Well, don't you lock your house?
Ma'am, I asked you a question. Why
Yes,
don't?
we lock our house when we're gone.
So that what, people don't break in?
Yeah,
People don't steal stuff?
I always lock my house.
Okay. Did Helen Steins always lock her house?
Yes, she did when she lived there.
10 years ago. In the last 10 years, has she locked that house?
Probably not.
So you feel it necessary to lock your house, but Miss Steins, over the last 8 to 10 years, did not. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Does Clay ever have people over when he's home and you're not there?
no,
No. You're the only person that goes to his house.
yeah, We got 8 wiener dogs, so nobody's allowed in.
Okay. And Clay's there by himself, correct?
Yes,
And you don't know what he does while he's there by himself, correct?
you're right, I don't.
Okay. April 7th, 2015, 368 days after the incident allegedly occurs, Officer Meisler finally takes photographs of what's in that box, correct?
Yes,
And that's the first time he's seen it, and the first time he photographs any of the evidence, correct?
yes,
And you, on the same day, executed a 2-page voluntary statement form, is that correct?
yep.
Karen, if I may take a moment to mark this. Your Honor, may I approach? Thank you. Ma'am, I'd like to show you what's previously been marked as Defendant's Exhibit N, and ask you to take a look at those 2 pages, and when you've had sufficient time to review them, please let me know.
Okay,
Have you had time to review that?
yep.
Now that you've had time to review it, and upon further reflection, do you feel that there's any corrections that you need to make to that statement? Is anything incorrect?
Nope.
Do you think there's anything important or of value that you forgot to put in that statement that you'd now like an opportunity to add?
Nope.
Is there anything that you, upon further reflection, would say, maybe that shouldn't be in there, I should take it out?
Nope.
Did you include all significant material information in that report?
I didn't put everything you took on there, no.
Okay. Other than the items that he took, would you say everything else that's important and significant is in your report that you
Yes.
gave us? Ma'am, would you consider someone acknowledging that they did something wrong and possibly a violation of the law to be important?
No.
No. So that's why you didn't put that on your report then?
What did they do wrong?
You indicated to me that Steve Kraus came up to you and indicated on April 5th of 2014 that what he did was wrong, correct?
Right, that's in here.
Where is that?
It's right here, how saying he was sorry for taking the stuff.
Okay, he said he's sorry for taking the stuff. Your Honor, may I approach? Thank you. Your report actually says, beginning at the bottom of page 1, carrying over to the top of page 2, I, being Tabitha Loroff, I told him what he did was wrong, correct? Do you need to see it again?
But no, yeah, I read it.
Okay. In fact, he even told you, according to your report, I'm a Christian and I was not stealing stuff, correct?
He said he was a Christian and what he did was wrong.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
But yes, I probably did tell him he was wrong too. I mean, I wrote it in my statement.
Ma'am, I want to give you this again. Please tell me where in that statement you said that Mr. Kraus said what he did was wrong.
It might not have been wrote on there, but what he told me what he did was wrong.
Okay, and you didn't think that was important enough to put in your approach?
This was at 5 something in the morning when I wrote that, so I had to hurry up and jot it down before I went to work. I mean, I might have missed a couple things in there.
You knew this was a criminal investigation, correct?
Yes,
You knew it was in relation to raising an assertion that Mr. Kraus had broken the law, correct?
yes,
And wouldn't you agree with me that somebody admitting what they did was wrong would be one of the easiest ways to prove that?
yes.
Are you aware of, at any time, the house being attempted to be cleaned out and dumpsters being filled?
We're working on it. It hasn't really been done because we all work.
How about prior to April of 2014?
We've talked about it, but nothing was really done
Okay. Why would you need dumpsters to clean out the house?
because it was a mess.
Could you live in it?
No,
Did you ever ask Officer Meisler why there was a delay of a year between?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Did you ever ask Officer Meisler why there was a delay of over a year between your, well, actually, just under a year between your two interactions with him?
no,
Did he ever tell you why?
no.
Did Mr. Kraus ever tell you that he had permission from Janine Porter to enter the house?
No,
But you knew he was there to evaluate at least some property,
that
correct?
day he was there to take pictures of the car. That was in the garage and that is not attached to the house.
And you only know that because of what somebody else told you, correct?
Well, I know that the garage is not attached to the house.
Ma'am, were you there at the time Mr. Kraus was told to go to the property?
No,
So you don't know specifically what was said to him, do you?
no.
I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Talk a little bit about the condition of the house. Did you ever go in the house when Helen lived there?
No,
You don't know if the condition of the house has changed substantially over the last 8 years?
when I went in there, it was kind of a mess, but,
Okay. You need a dumpster to clean it out.
right,
And no one's done that yet.
no.
So we're clear here. This box, where is it at?
It's in the Florida room, on the Lightner Road next door.
I'm sorry, in the Florida room.
In the Lightner Road, 753.
Show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 12. Can you identify that for us?
Yes,
What is that, please?
this is the box of the stuff that he gave me, that he had taken from the house.
And you know the location that picture's taken at?
Yep,
Where?
in the Florida room in our house.
Okay. Is that the same room as the breezeway?
Well, yeah, you have the breezeway and then it goes in another room, we call it the floor room.
Okay. Does that photograph fairly and accurately show the condition of the box?
Yep,
Is that the way it's been all along?
yes,
Is that the way it is today?
yes.
Who gave you that box?
Steve Kraus. April 5th.
Nothing further.
Briefly, Joe. Aaron, may I approach?
All right.
Thank you. Ma'am, how big would you say that box is?
Not very big.
Not very big. Give me a.
Deep, but I don't know measurements.
Okay. Is it more than a foot?
I can't, I don't know.
You don't know. So more than 2 feet?
I don't know my inches and my feet.
Okay.
It's a big square box with all that stuff in it.
Okay. The condition of the house, you indicated was one of the reasons you cleaned off the front porch, correct?
Yes.
Did you tell Helen before you were cleaning that off that you were going to do that?
No, she was in Florida at the time.
And you threw stuff away that was on the front porch, correct?
Yes, it was nasty.
I have nothing further.
All right, you may step down. Thank you. I'll call you.
Statement called Janine Porter, Your Honor.
Would you raise your right hand, please, Ms. Porter? I solemnly swear the testimony about the court and jury will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Keep your voice up so everybody can hear you.
Certainly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Janine Porter. I'm a Realtor that was the listing agent for Helen Stein's house.
How did you first meet Helen Steins?
Well, actually, my business is 100% referral. I work with clients who refer people to me, and Helen was referred to me by another client that I have.
Okay. Where's your business currently located?
I'm with Caldwell Banker. It's at 3313 Milan Road in Sandusky.
How long have you worked as a realtor?
Actually, I just celebrated my 5th anniversary, so I have my license 5 years.
Okay. Now, do you recall when you first met Helen Steins?
Yes.
When was that?
It was actually the 2nd of April. Helen had called me. If I can just give a little history, I don't know.
Yeah, please explain.
My client that referred Helen to me had been telling me from November of 13 that she had a tenant that had an issue with her house.
You're
She
going to
needed to-
object this to yours.
Judge, we're offering it just for background
I'm
purposes.
going to overrule the objection. Let me just explain something to you. Normally, we do not allow witnesses to testify to what other people told them because that's what we call hearsay. However, to be hearsay and excluded, we have to accept what is being said for the truth of what is being said. Let me give you an example. If a police officer gets on the witness stand and is asked the question, why did you go to the bank? And the police officer responds, well, I got a call from the radio dispatcher that there was a bank robbery happening at the bank. Now, we're not accepting the police officer's statement for the truth of the fact that there was a bank robbery. What we're accepting that for is, officer, why did you go to the scene? I went to the scene because I got a phone call saying there's a bank robbery. So I'm going to let her testify to what somebody told her, not for the truth of what was told her, but why she did what she did. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So my client had told me she had a tenant, and that her tenant had a house, and that there were some liens on it, and she had encouraged her to call me to list the house so she could get some revenue out of the house. It was almost 6 months later when she finally did call me and asked me to meet with her at the house so I could possibly list the home. So what I did was, on the 1st of April, after I spoke with Mrs. Steins, I did what I typically would do to come up with a value on the house. I ran comparables, which were very difficult because in that particular area, it's a lot of farm fields and things like that. The street that she lives on doesn't have a lot of homes. So I had to reach pretty far and wide to find comparables that had sold for bank purposes within the past 6 months. I did finally find some comps. So I went with those, with a lockbox and with my real estate sign and of course a contract, and went to the home to meet Helen on the next day, which was April 2nd.
Now, when you met Helen at the home, did you go through the home at that time?
I briefly did. I didn't take a grand tour. When I pulled in the driveway, and my husband was with me, typically in my business, I don't go to a meeting, even though it's a referral, I don't go to a first meeting alone because it's just not safe anymore. And I pulled in the driveway, my husband stayed in the car, and Helen, I was going up to the front door, and Helen leaned out the back door, and she said, "I'm back here." And so I went around the corner, we shook hands, introduced ourselves, and she said, "I'm sorry, but the house is really a mess." And I said, "Well, that's no problem." I said, "Let's go in and take a look." And when I got in the house, it was not what I was expecting the house to look like. And I have no idea how it got to be the way it was, but the bottom line was it certainly was not going to match the comps that I had with me. When I went there with the thought that the house would be listed in the $120,000 range, give or take. What we do is and of course this didn't pertain to her house, but if there's granite countertops or stainless steel appliances and the comps that you're looking at didn't have that, you bump the price up a little bit. That's just the way it is. And I said to her, she took me on a little tour, and I said, "Helen," I said, "this is really not a place that I can conduct business." I suggested that we go to McDonald's in Port Clinton and sit there and talk about the house and what her options would be. I got back to the car and I thought to myself, I didn't know where to go at that moment. And I told my husband, I said, the house is not matching the comps. This is not something I'm going to be able to advertise for the kind of price I thought I would. So I need to come up with some solutions. And I came up with 3. I came up with selling the house for land value, which in running the comps, I pretty much knew that the acreage would be about $10,000 an acre for that plot of land, for that size. I came up with the possibility of the house just being cleaned out. I know a handyman that hires high school kids and they charge a very minimal amount. They would come and clean the house out. They would get dumpsters and other things could be taken or sold or whatever the scenario would be. So that would have been a mid-range price for the house. And then the other possibility was a total redo of the house, which would have entailed new wiring, new plumbing, etc. I mean, the things that needed to be done to the house, I felt, without talking to Helen on my way to McDonald's, I thought would be cost prohibitive because I knew she didn't have any money. And so
When you got to McDonald's, did you lay all this out for her?
Absolutely. I told her what the 3 possibilities were. I told her what she could anticipate the sale to be at each level. Her biggest concern was how quickly the house could be sold.
And why was that a factor here in your mind?
Well, because she had told me...
Objection, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
She had told me that she had a tax lien on the house. She had had a lien from Magruder Hospital, and she thought she had a physician's lien as well. So she had been getting notices that the house was going to be going on sheriff's sale, and she was really concerned about it. And she said, I don't have anything left. If I could sell the house and just get a little bit of money for myself, I would be happy and pay off everybody. No one would call me anymore. And I think she felt it would be a better life. So I said to her, well, then you're saying you want a quick sale on the house? Are you saying you don't want to put any money into the house? She said, I don't have any money to put in the house, which I had already anticipated. And so I suggested we do the land value sale on the house. And at that point, we signed a contract listing the house for $49,900, just a hair under what the actual land value would have been.
And you were estimating land value to be worth how much?
$10,000 an acre.
How many acres?
I think it was just a hair under 5 acres.
Okay. Now, as a realtor, when you sign a contract with somebody to help them sell their house, do you then begin advertising that house?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, the first thing we do is we enter it in our MLS. Once the contract is signed, we have a multiple listing service, and ours covers 5 counties. And so it's entered into that database, and it goes out to different websites and things like that. And then we have, you can probably pick them up in Walmart and things like that, the Homes Guides, which we have, it's called Young's Book to us. We advertise in that, and we advertise in the Sandusky Register.
Do you recall what you put on the multiple listing service entries in the computer?
You know, I do, and I will tell you, the reason I do is because I just looked back the other day. I really haven't looked at a lot of this in over a year. And the other day I printed it out because I thought maybe I would need to bring it with me. And I wrote, if I can remember, not verbatim, but basically I wrote it was a sturdy old farmhouse, would not pass an inspection, would not be able to be bank financed, it would have to be cash only, because being a realtor, you know these things. You know what a bank will allow lending for. You know what an inspector is going to find. And again, if we had sold the house and the inspection said it needs new plumbing, Helen Steins couldn't afford to put plumbing in, so it was a moot point. I also put down, we have an agents only remark, which only a licensed realtor can go into and read. And I put down that there were antiques that the owner would be removing from the home. And that in essence was what, and I did put the house was being sold for land value, because that's what it was. It was being sold for land value only.
When did you post this on MLS?
Well, I met with Helen, I believe it was at 11 o'clock on that day. And I would say it would probably went on MLS maybe by 2:30 or 3 o'clock, I would guess. I went back after we met, I went back, we put the sign in the yard, and then I went back to my office and put it on MLS.
Okay. Once you put the sign in the yard and you post this on MLS, did you begin to get offers on the property?
Yes. Well, I actually had an agent from my office call, and he wanted to see it the next day. And I was actually going to a continuing education class. I was going to be there for basically the entire day. It was a core law class and an ethics class. So I told him I couldn't be there. And he said, well, you know, really, it's not a big deal. He said, my clients are interested in buying a piece of property out there, so we really wouldn't want the house anyhow. We would tear it down. So I said, okay. So he said, I'm going to talk to my clients and I'll have an offer for you, which is what happened. I had a call from another realtor who wanted to go see it the next day, and I told him the same story, that I had class the next day. I mean, everybody knew we had classes. They were at our realtor hall. And so I told him I would be in class the next day, and he said that he would let me know if they were going to go see it, and if they wanted to make an offer on it, he would call me, and you know, we would somehow put it together. Then that night, this was during the afternoon. I mean, really, when the agent from my office called me, it had only been on MLS, not even an hour. So that evening, I had eaten dinner already, and I got a call from Tabitha Loroff, who I knew as a server at a restaurant that my husband and I go to breakfast at in Huron, where we live. I knew Tabby lived in Port Clinton. and I answered the phone, and she asked me if I in fact had listed a house on Lakener Road. And I said, yes, I did. And I thought, oh my goodness, maybe she wants to buy the house. And she said, well, did you know that that's my fiance Clay's mother's house? I was dumbfounded. No, I had no idea it was. I did not know that Helen was related to Clay. I didn't know Clay. I had never met him. I knew Tabby as a server at one of our favorite places to go for breakfast. So she said to me, well, I have a buyer for the house. And I said, you do? And she said, yes. She said, Helen's brother wants to buy the house. And I was really kind of a little bit taken off guard, because I thought, if her brother wanted to buy the house, why didn't he tell her that? And I basically relayed that to Tabby. I said, well, why wouldn't he have said to Helen, I want to buy your house? She said, well, they have been estranged for a long time. And I said, really? She said, yeah, as a matter of fact, Clay and I really don't talk to her much. She said she's been estranged from the family since she came back from Florida, which was, I thought, about 10 years. I wasn't certain, but I thought it was about 10 years that she had been back. So I said, well, Tabby, I said, I already have one offer. I said, I have another potential one, maybe tomorrow. So if Helen's brother wants to make an offer, you know, why don't we meet at my office? And she said, well, you know, he's in a wheelchair, and it would be really hard for him to come there. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'm meeting Helen to present this offer I have. I said, I can't do it tomorrow, so I was doing it on Friday. I'm going to meet her at noon at McDonald's in Port Clinton again to present this offer to her. I said, I can come over there earlier. I can be there, let's say, at 11 o'clock, and we can write the offer for David.
Just to clarify something, what day of the week was this that you had this conversation with Tabitha Laura?
That was actually, it would have been Wednesday night, because it was the day I listed the house.
I'm sorry, Wednesday?
Wednesday night, yes.
Now, Thursday, what were your plans?
Well, Thursday, all day, again, I was in continuing education at Realtor Hall. I had a core law class and an ethics class. Those are classes that we have to take to keep our license active. We have, in the state of Ohio, we are one of the few states where realtors are actually under a canon of ethics, very much like attorneys, judges, and there are only a few states that have that. But to keep our license actually current and in good standing with our MLS, and we need to take these classes every 3 years. We have to have those particular classes. And then we have other continuing education that we have to have on a 3-year basis.
Getting somewhat narrative.
Oh,
Now, Ms. Porter, you listed the house on what day?
I listed it on Wednesday, April 1st.
By the end
Wait,
of-
no, I'm sorry, April 2nd. I talked to Helen on April 1st. I listed the house on April 2nd.
By the end of April 2nd, you had how many people making inquiries?
I had 2 offers, a verbal from David Heinzel through Tabitha, and I had a written offer from an agent from my office.
Thursday, you went to your seminar.
Well, it was, yeah, continuing education, not
Okay.
really a seminar.
Did you discuss the house with anybody at the continuing education center?
Yes,
Who?
Steve Kraus.
How long have you known Mr. Kraus?
I have known of him for probably, I would say 8 years. As long as I have lived in Erie County for 8 years, I would say probably the better part of that time.
Okay. Did you ever work with him on any particular house sales before?
No.
Who brought up the house over at 653 Lightner Road, you or Mr. Kraus?
I did. Actually, when I met with Helen, Helen Steins, when we were at McDonald's and signed the contracts, she had told me that she had a car in the garage. I had never been in the garage, and the garage was actually in disrepair, and I thought she told me the roof was collapsing on it, so it would be very hard to get in. Nonetheless, I didn't go in the garage, but she told me she had an antique car in the garage that she thought was worth some money, and she would be able to have some cash out of the car. And she asked me if I knew anyone that could help her with that, and I said, I really did not. I said, but I could go to my office and I would talk to people. We had a very large office that we could talk to people and see if anybody knew someone that could help me out. So the next morning, I was at my continuing education and I saw Mr. Kraus, and I thought to myself, you know, I know he's an auctioneer. I assumed he auctioned homes because he's a realtor and he works for a real estate company, and he also is an auctioneer for that company. So I approached him and I said, hey Steve, I said, you know, I was wondering if you would know anybody who could help me out. I said, I just listed a house yesterday. There are a lot of contents in it, and I don't know what she's going to do with everything. I said, but I know she particularly has a car that she is interested in, and a lantern collection. And I know that this has never been mentioned, but she also told me she had a lantern collection. And so I told him about this. I said, it's in a garage, and I'm asking you if you know someone. He said, well, Janine, I can do all that. He said, I'm an auctioneer. I can auction off things like that. What we call in real estate chattels, you know, flatware, dishes, things like that, chattels. He told me he could auction things like that off. And I said, well, I know she's really interested in the thing with the car, and anything else, you know, would have to be her decision. I said I would just back out of that, and I would either have her call you, or I would ask if it's okay for you to call her, and at that point I'd give you her phone number. So we had a little conversation. He called me the next morning, because I was in class that whole day. He called me the next morning and said that he would go out and look at the car. And I said, okay, that was fine. And I guess I never gave him the address for the house, which I'm certain I didn't. And he did go out to the house, I think, and look at the car.
I don't want you to speculate.
Okay, okay.
Did you ever give him permission to go inside the house?
No.
Now, as the listing agent for Helen Signs, do you have the authority to allow people into the house?
Yes.
Traditionally, how is that handled among realtors?
Well, normally, someone will call the listing agent, and they will set up an appointment to go into the house. Depending on the house and the circumstances, there are many instances where I will be at the house. Helen didn't even have the house locked. She was not concerned about me being there if someone went to look at the house. After all, a realtor has a fiduciary responsibility. They are not people that typically would go into a house and cause any harm, nor would their clients. So, no, I would have, if someone would have called me and asked for permission to go into the house, I would have told them they could go into the house. They would set up an appointment with me, and I would know when they were in there. And then as a courtesy, when you leave the house, you leave it in the state it was, whether lights were on, lights were off, doors were locked. In this case, the door was not locked. So the door would have been open when they left, but no, I did not set up appointments with anybody to go see the house.
Now, the realtors sometimes use what's called lock boxes.
Yes.
Was one used on Helen Stein's house?
No. When I went to Helen's house, I said I had a contract, I had comps, I had a sign, and I had a lockbox. And the reason there was no lockbox on the house is because there was no key to the house. I said to Helen, I said, well, I can put this on and I'll put a key in there. And she said, well, I don't have a key. And I said, well, can you get a key? She said, well, there hasn't been a key to the house for years. She said, we never locked our houses. And I said, okay. As a matter of fact, the one realtor that called me, that I told him I was unable to accommodate him at that time because there wasn't even a lockbox on the house. I said to him, I haven't even put a lockbox on the house.
Okay.
Because I had the expectation that at some point a key would be forthcoming. You know, maybe they would change the lock on the back door or whatever the scenario, but that didn't happen.
Did you ever give Steve Kraus permission to go in the house?
No.
What did you give him permission to do?
I asked him to go into the garage and look at the car. He told me he thought he could put the car on eBay for Helen.
Did you ever give him permission to take any property in the house?
No.
to appraise any property,
No.
to examine the property at auction at all?
No. I told him that that would be up to Helen Steins.
Did Mr. Kraus ever contact you to tell you he had gone in the property?
After the fact,
Not before.
no.
You had the conversation with him on Thursday.
Yes.
On Friday, who did you meet with?
Well, at 11 o'clock, I met with David Heinzel, who was Helen Stein's brother. Tabitha was there, Clay was there, her son, and Crystal, her daughter, were all at the house with their uncle, David. And we, actually at that time, we wrote a contract on the house. And after the contract was written, David wanted to change the price, which we did. He scratched it out and we put a new price, and excuse me, I don't remember what it was. I don't, because I don't have the contract. And since I'm with a different company, I don't have access to my old records. But he then signed a second page, a second offer page. The contract is like 5 pages long. And the offer page has the amount he's willing to pay. And he offered $48,000 on the contract. And then he said to me, you know, he said, if my sister needs the $49,900 for the house, if she's not happy with this, I will pay the full asking price for it. So he actually signed another page, actually initialed, because you had to initial at the bottom, for $49,900, and gave it to me and gave me the authority that if she was not happy with the $48,000, that he would go ahead and pay the $49,900.
Which was the listing price.
Which was the listing price, yes.
At noon, where'd you go?
At noon, I met with Helen. She was at McDonald's with my husband. I went over there and I presented the first offer, which was for $38,000. The second agent never offered on the house, so I went with 2 in hand. I went with one from the agent from my office for $38,000. His clients wanted to tear the house down and build a house on the property. And I went with the one from David Heinzel for $48,000, for $10,000 more. And I presented the $38,000 to Helen first, and she goes, oh, she said, I think by the time everything's paid, I won't get any money out of that. And so I figured out what she thought she knew what she owed on everything, and she was incorrect. But she said I wouldn't get any money, and I said, well, here's the other offer, and I laid it down, and I went through the whole offer. You know, you go through, in this case, it would have been a moot point, closing costs, things like that are written in on that first page. Of course, there were none. There was nothing. It was a cash deal, and she said, I would be so happy with that $48,000. She said, I hope it's a family that bought the house. And I said, well, what do you mean by a family? And she said, I hope it's someone that has children, that could raise their children like my parents did and like I did in this house. And I said, well, Helen, in fact, it's your brother. And at that point, she broke down. She was hysterical, sobbing uncontrollably, and she said, why would he do anything like that for me? We have not spoken in years. And I said to her, well, Helen, because he loves you, and he wants to keep that house in your family, because your grandparents lived in that house, and your parents lived in that house, and you raised your children in that house. And for him, it's far more important to keep that house in the family than for you to sell it to somebody else. And then I told her, after she agreed and she signed everything, I showed her the other page where he had agreed to pay the $49,900. And she just repeated again and again and again. She could not believe he would do that for her. So that's where I was.
Okay.
I was there until about probably 1:30,
So this took some time to get through.
certainly.
At that point, you believe you had taken care of your responsibilities as far as representing Mr.
Yes.
Heinzel
And Helen Stein's both, yes. I think I had, and when I left there, I walked out the door, and before I left the parking lot, I called Tabitha, who was the go-between. I called her and I said, you can tell David that Helen has accepted his offer and she's thrilled. And I do know later that day, they got together, they all got together later that day.
Now, this all happens here in what, Port Clinton?
Yes,
You're going home.
yes. Actually, I went back to my office.
What happened on your way back to your office?
Well, it was a terrible rainstorm, just terrible. And my phone rang, and it was Steve Kraus. He came up on my Bluetooth on my screen. And I was at that point not willing to answer the phone. I was driving in a rainstorm. And I think I probably got 3 calls. So I was headed down Hull Road, and my phone rang again, and it was Tabitha. And Tabitha started to leave me a message. And the message she left me was that auctioneer was in the house and took things. And so when I got back to my office, my first call was to her, and I said, I know you're mistaken. I said, there is no possible way that that happened. And she said, well, I'm telling you it happened. And I said, well, what kind of proof do you have? And she said, the neighbor took pictures. And I said, Tabitha, unless I saw a picture of that happening, I would not believe it. And she said, well, when I get back, Tabitha worked in Huron, where I was almost where she was when she called me, or when I called her back to answer her message. And she said, when I get back, I'll download this onto my computer and I'll send you a picture.
Did she do that?
Yes, she did.
When you saw the picture, did you recognize it?
I did.
What caught your attention when you looked at the photograph?
Well, I'm just trying to take myself back. I looked at the picture, and actually I kind of felt sick to my stomach, because when I looked at the picture, it was unmistakable to me who it was.
Who did you believe it to be?
I believed it to be Steve Kraus.
And why did you think it was Steve Kraus?
Well, the gait to his walk, his hair, he had a little hat on like I had seen Steve wear. There was a vehicle in the picture, because Tabitha, when she talked to me, had mentioned the vehicle, and I said, I have no idea what kind of car he drives. And there was a vehicle in there, which I later did come to find out, because I had seen it at various functions. I did come to find out it was his vehicle as well.
Okay, but that was later.
Yes, that was later. I just saw, I recognized who I thought was Steve Kraus in the picture.
Okay. Now, when you saw that picture, did you have any further contact with Steve Kraus?
You know, I did talk to him briefly, and we really didn't say too much. I told him I couldn't believe what had happened.
Let's have a date on that.
I'm sorry?
A date?
Oh, I would say it was probably Saturday, maybe April 5th. And the next contact I had with him was at a Republican women's function at Sandusky Yacht Club. And I didn't talk to him in that ensuing time at all. And that was towards the end of April.
Okay, what did you tell him on April 5th?
I said I couldn't believe that these pictures existed of you taking things out of the house. And he told me the reason he took them out of the house is he wanted to take them into a place that was light, because there was no electric in the house, and he wanted to take them and have someone look at them and appraise them.
Had you ever given him permission to do that?
No, even though he had no permission to take anything out of the house, he had a way to explain it away to me.
You ran into him again at a Republican function.
Yes, I did.
Republican women.
Yes,
Sandusky Yacht Club.
yes.
Do you recall the date?
Do you know, that was always like the third Wednesday of the month. So whatever that third Wednesday was, maybe the 22nd, 23rd, somewhere around there. I mean, I'm not certain. I didn't look at a calendar to see what it was. But I did. I ran into him there.
What happened?
He walked up to me and he put his arm around me and he said, "Don't worry, everything is smoothed over. I took everything back." And I took his arm off of me and walked away. Because at that point, I knew what I thought had happened, and I certainly didn't want to be associated with him.
Did you have further contact with him after that?
Saw him at a function where he put his hat on the same table I was sitting at. I told him to remove it, but I did not want to sit with him. And if he sat with me, I would kick his ass across the room, and I would go up and stand at the microphone and tell everyone I thought he was a thief. Yes, so that was the only other contact I ever had with him. And that was here in Ottawa County as well.
Another political function?
Yes, it was a political function.
Are you heavily involved in politics?
I no longer am. I was at one time.
What were you involved in?
I lived here in Ottawa County for almost 20 years. I ran for county commissioner. I was very strong in the Republican Party over here. I was on our central committee. And when I moved to Erie County, I was also on the central committee there. I am a presiding judge for elections over there, and that would be the extent. I did belong to Republican Women. They had great speakers that would come and talk about political issues, just issues that involved the community, not all politics. But, so I was also involved in that over in Erie County.
Okay. One moment. Now, Ms. Porter, at any time, did Mr. Kraus attempt to reach Helen Steins through you?
No, because in reality, when I talked to Helen on that Friday, I told her that I had met him. I said, and it's actually someone I know of, and he said he would be able to help you with all those things. And I said to her, I said, you know, I told you before I couldn't be involved in that. I said, do you want to call him, or would it be okay for him to call you? And she said, oh, just give him my phone number. This was just before all this happened. So I never gave him her phone number. Certainly I would not have given him her phone number at that point.
So before it happened, you didn't give out the number?
No.
Afterwards?
No, I never gave him her phone number, not even after.
No further questions?
Let's go ahead and take our morning recess. We'll take 20 minutes, be back up here 10 on. Remember the afternoon, discuss the case amongst yourselves, when anybody else comes for any opinions or anything. See you back at 20.